Alright, so hello and welcome to my final project presentation for Programming 1, of course. Today I'm going to be going over the final project that I chose to create for myself for my programming class. So, getting straight into it, my project was based around RGB LED light bulbs that I could program to act certain ways via Python, via what I program in Python. And so the couple ideas that I came up with in order to sort of steer myself in one direction, or in a couple directions, I guess you could say, was one to create a program that would have one of my LED light bulbs. In fact, it's over there behind the camera, so you really can't see. But one of the LED light bulbs to always have, or to always be on and be showing the temperature outside, or giving me a representation of the temperature outside via the color of the light bulb itself. Meaning that I would also have to be able to pull data from a weather website. So that was the first criteria that I had to meet. And the second criteria that I had tried to create or to meet was making Python be able to listen for maybe a different service or something like that that would indicate that an application had been opened in full screen mode. And then this would enable, or would make the lights dim and basically turn the whole environment into sort of a theater mode. I say I tried to meet this because obviously I was not able to fully pull off that exactly. Instead of listening to a process, I ended up having Python itself open up an application, and then through that opening of the application, I also in turn just had the lights dim along with opening the app itself. So not the solution I was hoping to make, but one that I am still pretty happy with at the moment. So taking a little bit of a deeper delve into the programming itself that went into this project, like I said, had to, for my first task, be able to pull data from a weather website or weather repository, and also be able to first control the lights themselves in the first place. So having to meet these, or having to be able to perform these tasks, I found two different APIs, one for the lights, and so I found a Yeelight API, that's Yeelight. Yeelight is the brand of the light bulbs that I got, and it is the name of the API that I found that would help me control the RGB colors of the light bulb, the hues, the brightness, and whether it was on or off, things like that. So I was able to use that to control the light bulbs themselves, and then as far as the data was concerned, I was able to also find an API that was able to connect me to a service that I just punched in some longitude and longitude, where I just punched in some longitude and latitude numbers for the current location that I was trying to get the temperature data for. And once I received that, I stored it in a variable that I then used in a bunch of if and elif statements to create a gradient, sort of, that a gradient of colors that I had the light change to according to the temperature. Now that was a little bit on the easier side. All I really had to do was take data, put it into an if statement, a lot of if statements, and that was pretty much it, at least for the temperature gauge. Although the only obstacle I had with this stage of my project was finding a way to constantly and just over and over again updating the temperature. The solution itself is pretty easy to say. Of course, you just put it in a while loop and you just have it go over that line again and again inside a while loop. However, once I started to get into having a GUI interface to open up an application and dim down the lights, I ran into a bit of an issue with having two while loops, one for the application and then one for my actual temperature readings. So there's a bit of overlap there, but I managed to get through that, and I'll run you through that in a little bit. Moving on to the second phase of my project, I think it would be better to start with what I had initially wanted to do. So what I had initially aimed to achieve was to have Python somehow be able to listen for a service in the background or something maybe Windows related that would indicate that some application, whether it's YouTube or a game that I'm playing, be able to indicate that it's full screen, and then Python would say, oh, okay, now that we're in full screen, I can dim the lights. And that was the goal. However, that led me down a very deep rabbit hole of different things, from Windows notification centers to looking at registry keys and the services in Windows itself. So, which all had pretty much led to dead ends. There were a couple routes that I could have possibly looked down and able to find a solution for it. However, time was of the essence. So in the end, I had to essentially turn that around. And so instead of having Python listen for a service that is running in the background of Windows itself, I would instead have Python open up the application itself. And since I was already having Python open up the application itself, I had also attached the code to dim the lights for that event as well. So opening the application and dimming the lights were now handled by Python itself. Alright, so now that all the introduction is done for all the programming and explaining, I'm now actually going to go ahead and walk you through my actual application. Although, bear with me, I'm not going to be using any screen capture software, so I'm just going to be pointing the camera directly at the monitor. So have fun with that, but let's go. In order to start looking at the program that I have made for the final project, I'm just going to start from the top, going to the bottom. So let's start with these import statements. I have a import statement for forecast IOPY. That is the library that I use to be able to connect to the weather service and pull data from it. I have the Yeelight library as well in order for me to connect to my light bulbs, a multiprocessing module or library that came in handy when trying to run both the GUI and the temperature check at the same time. GUI 0, obviously for my graphical user interface, and import time and import OS. I use time in order to have my while loop wait a set amount of time before grabbing the temperature again, as I really didn't want it taking temperature every second, as that would more than likely rack up my number of times that I'm allowed to pull data from that service. And import OS allowed me to sort of take control of different things in my machine, such as opening files and killing certain tasks in Task Manager. So that's it for the import statements. Moving on to the functions that I created, you can see right here, I have created a function that upon a press of a button in the GUI will open up the program Steam, and it will then also set the brightness for my room and my lamp bulb to 25%. Again, the next function we have is called close Steam, so I bet you can guess that once this function is ran, it will close the Steam application that was started over here, and it will set the lamp and room bulb brightness back up to 100%. Moving on to the start GUI function, the start GUI function will basically just starts the GUI, so it creates the application and it creates the two buttons and the space in between them, so that I can have that always open and ready for me whenever I want to open up Steam or close Steam. Moving on to the temp check function that I created. This function is essentially just one big while loop that constantly recreates this currently item, which is a map of values that are up to date with the time that it is being pulled. And so this currently is a map of all kinds of different values ranging from temperature to humidity to wind speed, and I am right here only pulling the temperature that is in this currently object. And I then print out what the temperature was updated to so that I know that it is actually changing. And then I use that temperature variable to dictate what color the light bulb should be depending on the given temperature. Moving down from that, I have a couple of global variables down here for my room bulb and the lamp bulb, as well as the API key that I use to gather the information. And finally, the longitude and latitude for Wilmington, so that I can pull data for the specific location. And in order to actually start this program, I have a if statement that will run at the beginning and will start these two processes using the multiprocessing module that I had imported here. And so this allows me to run both the start GUI and the temp check functions concurrently so that they can both be running, well, concurrently at the same time. Now, starting the software, we can see that I will, in a minute, get my GUI that I created with the start theater mode and end theater mode, as well as having the application actually take a temperature reading, and then, as it says down here, it will wait 30 minutes before it takes another temperature reading. But moving on to the actual GUI here, we can see that currently this is the current state of my light bulb. It's a bit purplish because it's not too hot, not too cold, so it's kind of in the middle, blue and red. And here's my normal light, my room light up there. And so once I press this theater mode right here, it will open up Steam, and there it goes, updating. And you can't really tell, but it does turn down the brightness of the light bulbs a good bit. Now that Steam is open, let's say that I actually decide to quit playing games for once. I can click this end theater mode right here. It will automatically close Steam, and my lights are back up to full brightness. So closing out this video, a couple things that I learned while making this project is that there are a lot of different ways that the operating system, or Windows in my case, can talk to different programs written in Python for this example. And although I didn't end up using any of them because they were a little bit out of my league or a little bit more involved than I had initially anticipated, it was still a lot of fun looking into them and researching how exactly different services are able to interact with each other and how you can be able to reach out and pull data from those services. And one last thing that I had also learned, which is a lifesaver, is the multiprocessing module that I had found in order to run both of those methods concurrently was also a very interesting part of this project and something that I'm really glad I got to learn. But that is all for this video, so thank you very much for watching. I know this seems like a very simple final project on the surface level, but it really did teach me a lot as far as connecting to outside devices and outside sources of data through Python. So that itself was very interesting, and it helped me learn a lot about that. So once again, thanks so much for watching.